If I said I'm black, people would believe me. If I said I'm Hispanic, people would believe me. If I said I'm white, nobody would believe me because I don't look white. Growing up, whenever I had to fill out whichever race group I was belonging to, I would always fill in African American just because that's what the teachers told me to do. I raised my hand and I said, I'm white, Hispanic, and black. Which one should I bubble? Bubble black. Always. And so I think it had more to do with maybe how my teachers perceived me than how I perceived myself, because if it were up to me, I would have bubbled all three. I think my life would be different if I married a white man. I think that I would just be perceived differently as well. I came home like a couple months ago and my mom was like, the way you are on Facebook makes you seem like you're black. And I'm just like, wow. I literally haven't changed anything. And my husband says things, and he thinks it's funny, and I guess it's kind of funny, but you're married to a black man, so you're black now.
Well, I think I'm kind of, I identify as white, but I'm half Mexican and half white. She's Mexican, and my dad, he's from New York, and he's white. In school, I would say more socially, I hang out with primarily white people. I have mostly white friends, and say if when I'm taking a test or something like the ACT or something, I check the white/Caucasian box. I realized that maybe I could have gotten some scholarship money if I said I was Hispanic for just to trying to fill their minority quota that they have. But I felt like if I did that, I became like a hypocrite, and because I really do not have, other than me, my mom being Hispanic, I really have no other affiliation with that. I kind of feel like the fact that I'm sometimes hiding that I'm Mexican, I feel like I'm disrespecting my mom. I'm not saying I'm not Hispanic or Mexican. I'm just not saying that I am. Like, I'm just not telling people or in my friends group, and it just makes me feel like I have to hide who I am, and I feel like I shouldn't have to, and I don't like that I do sometimes, and it makes me feel weird about the people I'm hanging out with, and sometimes I question why I'm hanging out with these people, but I end up doing it anyways.
My identity as a person stems a lot from the queer community. I'm non-binary, neither a male or a female, and I'm pansexual and on the aromantic spectrum. And so you have that combined with a passion for the arts and humanities altogether, and I'm also just a nerd, so it's a weird concoction of interesting ideas. Being white definitely has value to me. I know that it gives me privilege. I know in a lot of sticky situations I'd be offered second chances where others wouldn't. I have a truancy case right now because I missed a lot of school, and I was the only white person in that court besides my mother. And I was also the last person to be called, so I got to watch all of the other kids go up there and the judge be like, "So, why did you miss school? Why are you skipping class? Why are you doing all these bad things with bad influences around you? You need to go get a job." And then I got up there and the judge was like, "Oh, all right, you just need to do this. Here are these papers you're going to keep. I suggest you get a job. Have a nice day." And that was all I got. And it was weird, and a weird sort of, one of the most obvious examples I have of how I'd benefit from white privilege, but I know that there are a lot of little things where just people have assumptions about me based on looking at me, and my skin tone definitely goes into that.
My mom is white and my father is Arab American, and so I kind of got brought up with both, but I look more American, so people, mostly people associate me with being white. In Astoria, no one knew until they started seeing my dad around, and I would tell my dad, don't come to my basketball games, don't come to my volleyball games. I didn't want people to, because he looks very Middle Eastern. And so when people saw him and they found out, they, you know, I got called terrorist daughter, and they were very rude to me. Looking at me now, people don't really see me as being Middle Eastern, but in that town, they could definitely pick it up in me. And so I tried not to look Middle Eastern. I mean, I dyed my hair blonde. I didn't ever bring up any cultural things about being Middle Eastern. And I mean, it was a small town. It was only 2,000 people. We had one half Asian girl and me, and that was it. Everybody else was white. So in that community, they can definitely pick out people that aren't, blonde-haired, blue-eyed. So I was definitely picked on. But when I come to Dallas, I mean, everyone's like, oh, you look white. Like, you're just like another white girl. It's like, that's really strange because before I moved here, everybody thought I was something else. I wish I looked a little bit more Middle Eastern just because, like, I like that I have that side of me. But I think being realistic, I think it's good that I don't look too much of anything, because just getting jobs or just being in this society, I think it's just much better for you if you look white.
I'm not necessarily happy that I'm white because of all the extra stuff that came with it. Because of, like, the way our race has acted, like, through the course of history. Like, they've done the most evil, messed up things I've ever seen. Other than, like, using rape as a weapon in the Congo, but white people have definitely done worse than that, in my opinion. And I mean, even now, at the place I work and stuff like that, the people that say the most awful things that I've ever heard in person are those people. Are those white people that get drunk and sit at my bar and spout off nonsense. And it makes me really disappointed that I have to be lumped into the same category as them. It's one reason why I like the way that I look, because I am separated in that way. I think people in my generation are less tolerant to blatant racism, but a lot of them don't understand, like, what all comes with, like, the underlying racism, like, systematic racism that's happened. I've seen, like, on the internet and on television and stuff like that, a lot of older white men complaining about them being discriminated against because they're white. But I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's more of, like, everybody's just getting put on more equal footing, and they're not used to it.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, and we're really excited to be here with you and want to thank the East Initiatives for inviting us to be here. We really wish that we could be here with you in person, but
This virtual thing.
yeah, but here we are. So thank you so much again for inviting us.
And I wanted to let you know that the series of videos that you just saw were from the Whiteness Project, which is an initiative that began in 2019 in Dallas, Texas, where dozens of millennials between the ages of 15 and 22 were interviewed about their understanding of what it is to be white in America.
Yes, and we from that group of
The five that
individuals,
you
right? We were able to pull out 5 that you saw, and because they had a very diverse background, and they were, just explaining their experience, and so we wanted to pull those out. We, like Kwame said, they were from 15 to 22,
Mm-hmm.
and so we felt like that you guys would definitely be able to see yourselves in these individuals, and so
it kind of helps bring
Yeah.
together the conversation that we want to have today about Black Lives Matter.
Absolutely. And but before we do that, we want to have a say their names moment, because we've had this time last year, starting in February, there have been mass killings, senseless killings of these individuals that we all know nationwide. And we want to just have a moment to recognize and also to say their names and remember their names. So go ahead, Kwami.
Yeah, there are three names that we want to bring up because they are the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
Because underneath all of the media coverage, there are literally thousands
Yes.
of young Black men and young Black women who have senselessly lost their lives to structural violence.
Yes.
Ahmaud Arbery, February 23rd, 2020, he was senselessly killed. Breonna Taylor, March 13th, 2020, when she was senselessly killed. George Floyd, May 25th, 2020. So the 1 year anniversary of all three of their deaths are among us right now. And this is a time for us to really reflect on what have we learned in the last year.
Yes. And, you know, like Kwame was stating about, what we've learned within the last year, and this being only the tip of the iceberg.
Only the tip.
That there are countless others, sadly, and that we are trying to we have to remember and also keep those injustices in the forefront in the ways that we move about in the world. And that's kind of pretty much what we want to talk about. Part of it, there are some guiding principles that we try to, like I said, move about in the world with in the area
with
of
the Black Lives Matter
Right.
focus or lens.
Right, with that lens being, Black folks ourselves, Native Indigenous folks ourselves, trying to use these principles. And we want to share some of those, a couple of, maybe 3 principles with you, 3 or 4 with you, because we think those are important to move about your lives with and be the change agents that you all are trying to be in the world. So restorative justice is one of the top. And when we talk about restore, we're talking about bringing a person back to a place in which they once were before an issue or something happened with them. And that looks like different things. And Kwame and I talk about it. And restorative justice happens on different levels. There's education, right, Kwame? There's
education, there's
Right.
employment, there's commerce,
Yes.
Not just the criminality that
Right.
we're used to,
yeah.
hearing about.
Yes. And so there are different levels to restorative justice. And that happens between the person that is affected by that injustice and the person that caused the injustice. And so those two people, really, it's more on a communal level that
Yes,
we want to
indeed.
work.
And it's very important that you talked about the community because you cannot have true restorative justice without community involvement.
Right. And that is that person, those people getting together and deciding this is what we want to do instead of bringing the criminal justice system into it to then use punitive measures against the other person, which a lot of times disproportionately in our community, there are more Black and brown people who are affected by the criminal justice system. And so we want to start using restorative measures in order to be fair and have equity. Diversity.
And in order,
go ahead.
I was getting ready to say that. In order to really effectively implement restorative justice, you have to have a commitment to diversity.
Yes.
And me being the nerd that I am, I like getting into the etymology of words. And I remember in high school when I learned the etymology of the word universe.
Okay.
And it literally means
Talk
one
about it.
song.
One song.
One song.
All
So
right.
that's when just one entity is verbalizing themselves in their reality. Diversity is more than one song. It's two or more songs. So when you have diversity, you're singing your song and you're allowing someone else to sing their song. So that gives
to make harmony, right?
Yeah. Oh yes, I like
There you
that. To
go.
make harmony, because in that harmony, I love that. That harmony is an acknowledgement. It's a respect. It's a celebration of both differences and commonalities.
That's right. And so we definitely want differences and commonalities. That's what makes us interesting and great, and that's what we want. We want those. And another principle that we try to lean in and to live by is empathy. Empathy in action. We talk about that a lot when we facilitate and we have sessions like this. When we talk with students, is that we talk about active empathetic listening and being able to hear an individual and understand in the way that you put yourself in the position of that person. We're not talking about sympathizing with that person or feeling sorry for another person. We're talking about putting yourself in that person's shoes and trying to, at least, and that's empathy. And then we don't want to stop at empathy. We want to go further. We want to let empathy move into action, because
yes,
we can care about a situation. We can care about a cause. We can care about different things in our lives. But if we don't act to do something to improve, to be the change agent, then empathy without that action is just feeling sorry, right? It's just sympathy.
And I like the way that you just described that, because it allows me to bring in the word anti-racism.
Yes.
Anti-racism is a mindset that deals with, you're not just acknowledging and being, like you said, sorry that some racist action happened. Take, for instance, what just happened at Crystal Hill Elementary in North Little Rock just this past week, with the 5-year-old Black boy being forced to take his hands and put them in the toilet
to unclog
a innocent mistake that he made as a kindergartner.
Right.
So being anti-racist means that you not only speak about how horrific an incident such as that is, but you actually get up and do something about it. You are actively opposed to racism.
Absolutely. Actively opposed to racism. And the last one we will talk with you about, because we want you to go and get these principles and look at these principles for yourself. And so we will provide that information for you. But loving engagement, and that word loving being the key word. And it means, basically, it's, being able to embody and practice justice and liberation and peace and encouragement with one another. And so that is very important, to be able to do that, to have loving engagement. All of those things together, just those four, and they're a list,
total.
right?
13 total for
There are
the Black
13
Lives Matter movement.
Yes, there are about 13 total. But if you practice those four things, you are totally on the right track to anti-racism.
Well,
practicing that.
But here's the thing: these 4 principles of the 13 that we just mentioned, in and of themselves, they don't speak at all to anything that deals with race. They deal with being human and
humanism,
recognizing people's humanity.
Yes.
And that's why Black Lives Matter, because there is a centuries long negation
Right.
of the humanity of Black men and Black women and Black children, specifically here in the United States.
Yeah.
So when we talk about Black Lives Matter, it's not a negation that white lives don't matter. It's not a negation of, you know, we hear this thing about Blue Lives Matter and everything. No, Black Lives Matter deals specifically with the acknowledgement that those people that either self-identify as Black or that you look at and you identify as Black, they have the same humanity that you have.
Absolutely. And we could quickly pinpoint when we were talking and we were watching Lena, and Lena was talking about her Arabic father.
And Lena was the fourth video. Right.
And Lena was saying how she mainly identifies as white. She recognizes her Arabic, her father and her Arabic culture, but we were dealing with, when we saw that, there was a level of colorism and also classism that was at play there with his skin being dark, and there was some level of shame of, you know, she innately felt the need to keep him away because then
and not be seen with her father in public.
This is her father, and it had to have been very hard and hurtful for not only her, but also hard and hurtful for her father to have to know that in this country that he could not be, because of his skin color, that he could not show up. Right. He could not show up to his daughter's activities and be a part of that. So what we wanted to share those guiding principles with you. Did you want to add something?
You just spoke to the social construct of race.
Yes.
Race is a social construct that was created by the American legal system back in the 1700s. And it was created specifically to keep Africans and Europeans from coming together to join forces against the rich oligarchs that were running this country. And when we look at Amanda, the first video spoke on that. Amanda spoke on the self-identification of race and the social construct that even the husband
and her mother.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. And it's just basically what you said, keep us from coming together, but to divide us. And so if we look at it in those terms, that, you know, it's a source of division, and that if we engage in some of these guidelines or guiding principles that we talk with you about, then again, we're well on our way to anti-racism and being very conscious and very present when we engage with other people, to bring our whole selves and engage honestly and authentically. It's important.
And in that bringing yourself authentically as a whole person, we saw the struggle that Nick in the second video had discussing
his Mexican heritage
and his having to deal with this color line that this country has imposed upon him. And it was really hard for me to watch him go through discussing that. And I really wanted to be able to sit down and have a further, more in-depth conversation with him, because it's a problem. This color line, this race issue is a dividing problem that we did not create. And so what we have to do is we have to devour ourselves of any connection or ownership to it. And as young people, it is your responsibility to create a new reality, a new vision, a new affirmation. When we look at Wade in the last video, the guilt that he feels
Mhm.
just by being white because of
Right.
all of the historical
Mhm.
negativity that is associated with actions that are attributed to white people against non-white people.
Right. And I absolutely, for me, Wade was speaking about white guilt, and he was talking
Yes.
about how he just felt ashamed, and there was a lot of shame there. And though that is an emotion, and that's a real feeling and a real emotion, we have to learn how to push past being uncomfortable and be uncomfortable. We talk about this, and this is the saying, we say this all the
Mhm.
time, learning how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I know that is um, probably an oxymoron or whatever you call it, but basically we have to do that in
Yeah.
order to push past, in order to have these conversations, in order to show up authentically and be present. And so yes,
Well, in Wade, his situation and the way that he feels about what's going on
mhm,
actually uh, is a common feeling that a lot of white people have that prevents them
mhm,
from moving forward. And like you said, you have to push past it.
yeah,
Uh, you're not responsible for what has happened.
mhm,
You're responsible for what will happen.
yeah,
So if your inactivity stops you from being a change maker,
mhm,
then you're responsible.
yes, absolutely. That was well said, Kwame. Well said.
Oh, well,
And
I just came up with that.
well said. So we want to switch gears in just a little bit,
Mhm.
and you know, we are talking about what we watched, and talking about we are talking about using these guiding principles, and we hope that those four were able to kind of put you on your path. And if you're already there, congratulations. This path is an ever learning path, so we have to try it again. We got to get up and we got to do it again. We have to remember it's not something that we learn and then we automatically are operating in it. I have to get up every day and remind myself of how to show up for folks. And so we're all learning. This is forever going to be part of it, but we have to be very mindful and conscious, which is about the same thing, but basically being very conscious about how we show up for people.
And the important things about the East Initiative is the infusion of critical thinking and creative problem solving throughout the curricula.
Mhm.
And so it's very important that those students that are involved in the learning environments that East Initiative provides, that they take this opportunity. And we've talked about being change makers
Yes.
throughout this discussion. So we want to give you some resources that will help you be an anti-racist change maker,
Yes.
that will help you further understand what the Black Lives Movement is all about, why Black Lives Matter is important, and why you should get actively involved in that. So
in your
we
school,
should go ahead.
in your school, in your
Yes.
communities, and throughout the world.
Yeah, and one example of that, we're going to share our screen right here. One example of that is a relationship that we have with Quest Academy in West Little Rock.
Which is one of the East
And
schools.
yes,
Yeah.
and Melissa Muse is the teacher that we've been
We've
dealing
worked
with,
with,
and
yes.
that we've worked with. And her students have actually helped us, along with students at UALR Mass Communications, to create our Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement website, which you see on your screen right now. And what one of the things that
Quest
Academy did is they created the Arkansas lynching sites map. And here in Arkansas, there are 492 confirmed documented victims of racial terrorized lynching. And what they did is they took that list of 492 and they actually mapped them so we knew exactly where these lynching occurred. So that is a part of actively using your community service, your critical thinking skills, your creative problem solving to real world solutions.
Absolutely.
Let's go to some other resources that we want to share.
And when you get a chance, you can go to our website and click on where Kwami clicked, and then you'll see Arkansas lynching sites, and it will be the one at the bottom from the EJI map.
All right, you want to talk about these?
Second resource that we like to provide for you is from the Pyramid Arts, Books, and Custom Framing, which is right here in the Paul Lawrence Dunbar community in Little Rock. And if you want to support BIPOC businesses, this is one to support. This is a Black-owned bookstore and custom framing. It's a small museum also of art and culture. And Garbo Hearn is the owner and curator. Here are some of the books that we suggest you read, I put into your arsenal of sorts to help you with fighting off and also learning about how to be anti-racist. One book, several books. Here, there's White Fragility. There's How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi, who actually came to Little Rock about a year or so ago through Philander Smith College, Justice Khan, and we were able to bring him here, which is awesome. And
with we have a partnership with Arkansas PBS, and we just did a talk using So You Want to Talk About Race.
Yes, so we just did a talk on So You Want to Talk About Race there. And then Damaged History is actually a native Arkansan writer, which is Chester Johnson. He lives in Helena, Arkansas, which is in the Delta. And he is talking about his heritage as relates to the Elaine Race Massacre and how his family or his father was involved in that.
One of the perpetrators of that.
And so, and if you get that book, you'll learn a whole lot about the Elaine massacre here in the state of Arkansas of 1919. So I suggest that you do. We do a lot of work around that. And the other thing is Just Mercy, the other book that we suggest you read. Just Mercy, Brian Stevenson.
And they have this one adapted for youth.
Right. So they have an adaptation for youth of Just Mercy. We're very proud to be partnered with the Equal Justice Initiative out of Montgomery. Any other? Can you move up some here? Okay. And then there are other books. Frederick Douglass, gotta read him. Agitate, 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 as he says. And
let's go on.
So let's go on to other resources, Kwami.
Well, this resource right here, this is a resource that I am very interested in, and we have a short amount of time in this presentation. This is a work in progress by Independent Lens, and it's called The History of White People in America. And right now they have 3 6, 7, 8, 10-minute video clips that are animated and put to music. And it talks about the true history of white people in America and explains how that history intersects with the systemic racism that we do currently suffer from here in America.
So that's another great resource. And the last one, I think this is the last
next
one.
to last
The
one.
next to last one is Black Lives Matter at School. So we're talking about that right now. That's very important. This resource, I think you will find very, very helpful. It's full of information for you to be active at school. And let's see, we will also provide this information this is recorded, right, for them?
Yes.
Okay, so you'll have this to
Indeed.
go back and get more information about. I'm sure that they will provide you more resources from this, and we're going to keep going.
And, well, I want to say something about Black
Yes.
Lives Matter in school. Black Lives Matter in school was actually a response to the Black Lives Matter movement that actually school teachers and school librarians got together to create this movement.
Yes.
And we talked about the 13 guiding principles for the Black Lives Matter movement. Well, the Black Lives Matter in school movement also has guiding principles. And
Yes.
their 4 guiding principles are: 1, to end zero tolerance in schools. 2, to employ more Black teachers, particularly Black male teachers.
And that's a few.
Yes.
Yeah.
3, to implement required Black history curriculum. And 4, to concentrate funds on counselors and not cops in schools.
Yes. And these all are very are resources that you relate to and that
Yes.
you can take and you can practice and you can use. So this website, we think you will benefit the most from. All of them are very great resources. Do you have
And
one last one?
Our last one before we go to our
This is
video.
also a very, very, very good resource.
Yeah, this is actually a
Public
capital
charter.
city public charter school in Washington, D.C. They have a Black Lives Matter page on their website, which is just full of resources. So,
yes. And that's something that if
yes.
you don't have in your Quest Academies,
Yeah.
that you can advocate
Indeed,
for, and
indeed.
also have a page
Yes,
with these resources.
indeed. Take
just like
this page
Yes.
and then be able to replicate it on your own school's website.
Absolutely.
Because there are resources on this website that we both go to on a regular basis. So we just wanted to give you those resources to let you know that positive change agency comes from you don't necessarily have to know everything, but have access to the knowledge and the tools and the information that you need to definitely engage your community and your neighborhood to implement what you're learning in school, at home, and in your neighborhood.
Yes.
Did I just say neighborhood noise?
You did.
I did.
But it's okay. Get in your neighborhood and be active, basically is what you're saying. But we want to thank you for
Yes.
allowing us to be with you again in this session, and just kind of giving some guiding principles and being able to kind of dissect and unpack some of these things so that you can be, again, what some part of your mission is as an East student is to be a change agent in the world and
Yes.
throughout the world. So
Yes.
we start with ourselves. We got to start with ourselves first. Then we start with our families. And that's sometimes the toughest part, but we still have to do it. And then we go out into our communities, and then we push who we are and what how we want to show up throughout the world.
Okay.
Now, I would like to
before you introduce the video,
Okay.
I just want to say, if you want to contact us, we're at www.apjmm, you see it behind us, .org, www.apjmm.org. Introduce our closing video.
So I wanted it to be a surprise for you, because some of you may have seen it 1,000 times or 100 times or less.
Like our children.
Right. But I won't give you the name of it. I won't give you the artist. I just want you to stick around and watch our closing video, and hope that you enjoy it, and hope that you are inspired by it, because it's very inspirational even for me. So we want to thank you again thank you so much for hanging in with us, and you guys enjoy the rest of your session.
Or the conference.
Or the conference. Yes.
Right. Goodbye.
Bye.